we're going to
Recording in progress.
call the meeting to order. This is the June 2025 meeting of the Federated City Employees Retirement System. I apologize for the late start. We have dealing with some technical issues. I believe they are resolved, so we can begin with our agenda for today. Let's begin with a roll call. Go down the normal list here. Vice Chair Chandra?
Here.
Trustee Abbott?
Here.
Trustee Abbott is with us remotely. Trustee Avasti?
Here.
Trustee Faulkner?
Here.
Trustee Linder?
Here.
Trustee Nakagawa?
Here.
Okay, I believe we need to qualify Trustee Abbott's remote
Yes.
dial-in.
Trustee Abbott, I understand that you wish to attend this meeting remotely pursuant to AB 2449 because of an emergency circumstance. Is that correct?
I have a respiratory illness.
Emergency circumstance is statutorily defined as a physical or family medical emergency that prevents a member from attending the meeting in person. Without disclosing any personal medical information, Trustee Abbott, what is the general description of the emergency circumstance?
I have a respiratory illness, if you can hear me.
Yes. And are there any individuals 18 years of age or older that are present in the room at the remote location with you?
No.
The board must vote to approve Trustee Abbott's remote attendance under AB 2449's emergency circumstance teleconferencing rules to participate in today's meeting. Trustee Abbott, we're gonna,
Okay, do we hear a motion to accept Trustee Abbott's participation remotely?
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Chandra. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second from Trustee Avasti. Is there any discussion or public comment? Seeing none, we can vote. I guess this will be a roll call vote. Trustee Avasti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Chandra?
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
Trustee Nakagawa?
Aye.
And Trustee Abbott? Or she cannot vote on this herself. Okay. Chair votes aye. Trustee Abbott's vote will count on all subsequent votes.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, Trustee Abbott, you must leave your video and audio on at all times during today's meeting.
And all votes would need to be roll call votes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. Go to orders of the day. We have a time certain item at 10 a.m., which is an application for change of status for a service-connected disability. So we will hear that item at 10 a.m. Okay. We do not need to waive sunshine. The consent calendar, are there any changes to items on the, wish to pull anything from the consent calendar? Actually, going back to orders of the day, I would like to change the orders of the day if I can have the support of the trustees. Item number 5, old business, 5A, which is a discussion of the investment policy statement. I'd like to hear that before item number 4, investments, so we can get to that in an expeditious manner. So if there's a motion to accept that change to orders of the day.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion from Trustee Linder. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have-
comment.
Yeah,
Anurag has something to say, and then it looks like there's a public comment.
Okay.
No, Mr. Chair, I am waiting for Eileen to join us, and she's going to lead that discussion, and she's expected to be here in person, so hopefully she will get here before we
Okay.
start discussing.
Okay,
Yeah.
hopefully that will be the case. And we will take public comment just as soon as we have a full motion. I believe there was a second from Trustee Avasti on the motion.
Yeah.
So is there a public comment on the motion? Yes, there is. Okay, proceed public comment.
Are you referring to Brad?
If you are the public commenter, yes.
Well, yeah, I would appreciate you stating my name. You see it there, so it would be,
I'm sorry, I personally do not see it, so,
okay, well, I apologize for that, but, you know, when you say public comment, I don't know who you're talking about.
okay, we are apparently referring to you, Mr. Memora. Please proceed with your comment.
This isn't regarding the agenda, but it has to do with, I understand the emergency accommodation for Trustee Abbott, but do the posting requirements, are they, with regard to having to reveal the location of where the trustee is, does that have to be revealed as well?
No. Not under the emergency circumstance exception to the Brown Act.
And the point in time to make comment on that was when that motion was heard. And so this comment appears not to be relevant to the current motion, which is simply to change the order of the agenda for today. Do you have a comment on today's agenda order?
No, I do not, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on the orders of the day? Seeing none, we will vote. Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Nakagama?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra?
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar for today?
So moved,
We
Mr.
have
Chair.
a motion from Trustee Linder. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Trustee Faulkner. Any further comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, we will vote. Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Nakagawa?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra?
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. This is a hybrid meeting. All those who are attending virtually, please mute yourself unless you are speaking. And if you wish to speak, please raise your hand and the staff will alert the chair. At this time, we will accept public comment on any item that is generally under the jurisdiction of this board, which is not otherwise on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this board? You will have 3 minutes to speak. No comment, okay? We will proceed then with the agenda. First agenda item is closed session. So let us convene to the closed session room. Do we have anything to report out of closed session?
No reportable action.
Okay, thank you. All right, I believe we are now on to agenda item number 3, which is death and survivorship. We'll have a moment of silence for those who have served the city and who have passed. Okay, thank you. And so according to the amended orders of the day, we will now have the item number 5A, discussion action on the investment policy statement. Are all of the consultants here to address that issue?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's get into it.
All right, so you've heard this item before, both at the IC and at the board, and there was some feedback from the board, which has been incorporated into the IPS. And to present this, I would invite Eileen and Laura.
Good morning. May we proceed?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, before you have in this item both the investment policy statement draft that incorporates the changes that resulted from the discussion at the last meeting, as well as the implementation procedures document. So you also have an executive summary, sort of a memo, which describes the main revisions between this policy and the existing policy. And while it looked like, as you read through it, there were a lot of changes, the vast majority, probably 75% of those changes, were simply moving sections to different areas in the document. For example, there were something like 3 or 4 pages of text related to roles and responsibilities that were previously embedded or are currently embedded in the risk policy and in most investment policy statements for the clients that Lisa, Laura, and I work with. That is a distinct and separate section, and it is normally much higher up in the investment policy statement. So we took that and moved that. So clearly that was a very large change. The other substantive changes were there was language related to portfolio components that no longer exist in the portfolio. So removal of text related to portfolio components that no longer exist. We also moved to the appendix a page of definitions. So right there you have probably half of the document that exists today and mostly will remain intact, just in different areas. So getting down to the key revision had to do with the asset allocation section. So the asset allocation section in the current document we felt was very prescriptive, and we understand why that was at the time that this document was initially conceived, something between 7 and 8 years ago. The investment program had undergone a wholesale revision, and I think that language is inserted to sort of give the board a sense of maintaining firm control over the investment allocation policy setting decision, which you have, but at a level that was sort of too micro level. And we reviewed a number of peer investment policy statements, and between us have decades of experience in working with public fund boards such as yourselves. And the language that exists today is very, very unique. We don't really see in any other. So what we did was we abbreviated the language to focus on the most important, which was the fact that you maintain the decision for setting the strategic asset allocation policy. You regularly revisit that decision, and you do so through a very disciplined, industry standard asset allocation process that is run by your general consultant and your staff in terms of the mechanics, the models, and so forth. But those are just inputs into your decision. And since this document is meant to be a governing document, so it should be very high level, and it should be very transparent, and it should ensure that the appropriate decisions align with the appropriate fiduciaries named in the policy. That's really how that section was revised, was to reflect that. And that really, and then the language that was related to decisions that staff has been delegated authority, those were moved to the implementation policy. So that was the other major change, was taking that chunk of language, again, a couple of pages related to manager due diligence and monitoring and so forth, which is a staff delegated authority, to the implementation policy where it remains. So I don't know if Laura, if you have anything to add?
I'll just add that it was a collaborative process. There was a lot of effort put into having a sort of holistic procedures and implementation document by the staff members. And you know, one thing that I just reiterate through the whole process is that all of these changes were designed to retain all authority with the board. Whereas we might say that it's best practice to evaluate asset allocation policy every 3 years, the board can determine that they want to look at it at any time. So nothing in the language of the revisions was designed to limit anything about the board's authority. The board owns the policy, you know, hires the service providers and the staff. There's, you know, still full authority by the board in this document.
Okay, thank you. And certainly appreciate the efforts that have gone into revising the IPS. Shakespeare said brevity is the soul of wit. I believe we achieved a little bit more brevity,
It's a lot thinner.
but it's still many pages long. So I'm not quite sure we've achieved Shakespearean perfection here. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? First of all, is Trustee Abbott online? And we'll make sure we still have
Online.
Very good. And have all the trustees, you know, receive the redlined version so that we can review this properly? Very good. So are there any other comments from trustees about the revisions here? And I know there are many.
Prabhu, did you have any thoughts to share with us? No? Just
Not particularly.
Okay.
I think we've discussed this extensively both at the IC and the board. Yeah.
And the main issue last time was people, we had a snafu with the attachments, right? So the board trustees wanted more time to actually review the red lines.
In terms of why we didn't vote on it last time was fundamentally that we felt it didn't meet the Brown Act requirement for public notice on substantial changes to a document.
Okay.
So that's why it's been deferred to
I have a couple of
review here.
questions.
Okay, Trustee
I believe we
Avasti?
discussed this last time as well in terms of the cadence of strategic asset allocation. We are changing it at least every 3 years. And I believe the original was annual, right? For the strategic asset allocation, the current cadence is annual, and that is being changed to at least 3 years. And I mean, investments is a critical function, and if we change the cadence, I'm apprehensive that some of the trustees will potentially go through that exercise once in their tenure or even never. So that, I find that problematic. I feel like, you know, we should retain the cadence to annual.
I
Well-
could mention, we will still bring asset allocation annually because your general consultant and your risk consultant update our asset allocation expectations, our capital market expectations annually. So what we typically do for other large public funds is come annually with here are the updated capital market expectations and here is the impact on our expected return and volatility so that the whole board is looking at the asset allocation at least once a year. But typically it's every 3 to 5 that we undertake a really broad exercise of comparing to many different alternative options, working with staff. It's usually a multi-meeting process to sort of say, do we want double what we have in fixed income right now, and those really large wholesale changes to strategy. So even under the current policy where there's a wholesale review every 3 years, you'll still be looking at the asset allocation every year, and you can always say, you know what, based on these expectations changing, we want to do a more wholesale review right now.
Can we, didn't we make some change to the to asset allocation just as a single line item by vote last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, we did, actually, yeah.
Can someone remind me what that was?
Yeah, I don't recollect the language. I think we did put in some language, Eileen, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, to emphasize that we should have a longer term orientation, but I don't recollect the exact words that we used.
You're right, we did, and I think at that time, the language was there would be an annual review, but there would be a full-fledged study every 3 to 5 years unless the board, market conditions change, or a recommendation from the consultant to take a look because something fundamentally has changed, or something fundamentally has changed with the investment program. So a lot of that language that carried into, all of that language carried into this document.
So does that mean that the review process is still annual?
Correct.
That's right. So Makeda will still bring its capital market assumptions, which they produce every January, and it's usually presented to the IC in February, and we still talk about it. It's just that the language now suggests best practice, which is that a comprehensive overhaul, or at least a study, a detailed study, should be more longer term in focus, so every 3 to 5 years. But you can make changes anytime. I mean, you can make multiple changes in a year. There's nothing here that prevents the board from making changes.
I wonder if even the revised language reflects that intent as clearly and crisply as we might hope. I think we had some discussion last time about the word review, and I see also the word assess has been used in the updated document. To me, that speaks to simply to review something is to look at, to consider, to ponder, and that is something that we should be doing annually. So when the word review is associated with something happening on a 3-year cadence, I think that's problematic, and that still appears in this document. So it seems to me a review happens annually. Perhaps we consider revisions every 3 to 5 years, and there needs to be some clarity in the language being used with respect to this issue, or maybe a definition of what you call a full policy review as opposed to a portfolio review, or some further definition of this issue.
Mr. Chair, if I could, so currently in section B, which was formerly section E, the second sentence does clearly say reviewed annually. And then in section C, it also uses review, but it uses it in context of review process. So the process is undertaking that asset allocation policy setting process, where you're looking at potential policy alternatives, et cetera. So I think it is in its current state. I think it is clear in terms of the former, that annual is that update, and that you will look at it. You may even discuss it. A lot of your peers don't, because a lot doesn't change in 1 year. But the review process, that is the process that it refers to, the asset allocation process.
I would also note that many of our policies put a mandatory review in some period of time to make sure that every policy is touched on a regular cadence. That is typically meant to be the maximum time, but we often review policies based on comments or questions or concerns that get raised in these sessions or committee sessions. But my point of view is that's the stopgap from not doing good governance.
And that was exactly the point I was going to make.
Sorry.
Is that no, I agree with you. The process does say at least every 3 years, not limited in any way to every 3 years.
Okay. But I think the distinction between what we do every year, what we know we do every year, and that we expect to do every year, the distinction between that and what you're saying best practices are for every 3 to 5 years, that distinction is not clear to me from this document. And in fact, it's not clear to me in general. And maybe we need more words to describe that distinction between those two processes.
Well, the first is not a process, the second is a process. So the word process is missing from that annual review, because all you're doing there, or all the consultant is doing, is updating the policy, your current policy, to reflect current assumptions. The review process that's undertaken every 3 years is that asset allocation process. So the evaluation of different policy alternatives, potentially new asset classes or sub-asset classes. So that, I think the distinctive word is process. The annual is a review, and no action is expected to be taken. The process alludes to a decision-making process, and there could or could not be a decision that results from that process.
I guess what I'm suggesting is what you just said was alluded to might need to be defined, as this is meant to be an evergreen document which will inform future boards, future trustees. I think it leaves a little bit to the imagination to understand. We here who've gone through the process may understand it fully, but it lacks clarity.
Okay.
So you'd like us to add a phrase around including the consideration of other asset
It
allocations?
may be beyond the phrase. It may require an entire sentence or paragraph, in my opinion.
In your Shakespearean metaphor, I would hope that we could do it in a phrase and not a paragraph.
In many cases, brevity is the goal, but if it lacks clarity, then brevity diminishes us. So,
I mean, for a layman, it will still read as every 3 years. That's what's written in the policy. I don't see where the annual thing, annual review is written.
Yeah, where's the language on, I couldn't find, again, we don't have it up there, so the annual
7B.
7B?
Seven.
I'm on 8.
Page 10.
Okay.
in the, well, this is.
Would you,
page-
do you want us to bring up the red line version or the clean
draft
version?
7B. Page 10.
Page 10, okay, I'm on page 13, that might be my issue. So first of all, it says at least every 3 years, so.
Section B says.
So I believe we've covered the design, if the board wants to do it more frequently. Where is the language around once, every year there will be a capital markets?
Section B.
Section 7B
Okay.
on
Right.
page 10.
Yeah, thank you. 7B, page 10, it discusses at least every 3 years.
You gotta go to the clean draft. This is the clean draft, the 6/26
Okay.
today's date. Draft.
Okay.
We have like so many attachments.
Yeah, and this was all in
Yeah,
the
I'm not seeing the language about the CMA.
I'm
There
not,
we go.
se-
I don't see
I-
that
I'm just not
I'm
seeing
seeing
the
that in
CMA.
section E.
The CMA language is all I'm focused on right now, to make sure it covers Prachi's concern.
Yeah, that's in section E,
Okay.
underneath the B. I thought we were gonna move that section actually
did.
ahead of B,
Take a look at that.
so that it was clear that that was,
Because this has moved around
Prerequisite.
since we did all our committee work, so I'm a little less familiar.
This is
That's E.
The
This is right. what
It's
they-
11E. It's on page 11.
What is up on the board is not correct.
the
Yeah, it's-
attachments, you gotta go to the other attachment, it's today's date.
Yeah, no, it was six
There's
one,
a
six attachment.
clean update, it's today's date.
This is
It
E,
should look
right?
like this.
That's
This-
correct.
We reviewed that.
So section
Oh.
B is the,
that is
Yeah.
different than what this handout has.
Yeah.
See, this
I have
does,
something
Yeah.
else.
I think this will make everyone happy. I also think it should be moved ahead of B personally. I don't wanna tinker, we did this in the
Okay,
committee, I
here's
don't wanna
one I
tinker.
just
well,
picked
this
up
is
over
the
here.
change, is that what you're now referring to on the board?
Mhm.
Section B is IPS.
No, we need to go to page 11, section E. That is not what I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
that's not what I'm looking at either.
Yeah,
So
that's
go
not
back
what
to your
you-
agenda and open the
I-
626.
I don't wanna move because what I have on my screen is what I think the board would like.
What's
I think
the-
this is what,
So what's the topic, what's that one read?
it's, page 11, section E, it's right above evaluate, it's just a different E than.
I think a version I have has E showing what this shows as
Yeah,
section B.
so it's.
So we can scroll back,
It's our last
scroll the
meeting,
other way.
we talked about reorg.
So I have the right version, but they don't, so I don't know what's going on here. Here,
What Mr. date are Chair. you
looking at on the
I'm looking at attachment, it doesn't have a date,
This is
Or maybe
5A5.
Mr.
This
Chair,
is
if I
5A5,
may,
Right.
This is May 15th.
Uh,
What we are
yes?
looking at is June.
just a reminder for everyone to speak into their microphones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's, if you wanna scroll through it to find the matching.
Okay.
We
It's
have a
not-
dated
Uh,
version.
I'm looking at the dated.
Okay.
version.
Uh,
It's
use
not
your
in the
microphones.
June 26th version.
It's not in the June 26th version.
It-
So do we again
it
have some sort of race condition in terms of versions?
Did we move that somewhere else? And I mean, clearly I was looking at a dated version,
Mm.
but, we did have something that
Updated.
I just won't have time to scroll right now for the updated version, where we talk about the CMA.
Yeah, and, yeah, I mean, CMA language was moved.
It was, and you
Which
can see
is-
it's up on the board,
Which is
up on the
reflected here if you
screen.
look.
Yes.
Oh.
7B, yeah.
Oh, great, so, okay,
Okay.
and so,
That's what allocation.
so does that,
Yeah, maybe see.
does that comfort, I guess
That's
it's
a different-
Spencer and
Mm.
Rachi? So we have to do that annually, and then at least every 3 years, we have to more
Okay.
comprehensively review the entire, strategic.
That is more clear than what I was reading in this
Okay, I found
document,
it.
Yeah.
which is the document I picked up on entering the room.
So I think last meeting,
We asked that this change
We
be
asked
made.
that this
Eileen recommended
clarification
we
be made.
switch the order
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
these two to bring it
Mhm.
forward, and I
Okay.
think that's.
And we did.
And I understand that there are some members of the
Yeah, I
public
found
wishing to
it.
comment. We're not yet at that section, as no motion on this issue has been made. But we will hear public comment once trustee discussion is complete. Okay. So I'm working off a version here that may or may not reflect the latest information. But I do have a number of other maybe minor issues that, in the language, that I would like to address. Under section 5, diversification, subsection A. Can we go there? B, A, keep going. No, below, above
Should be
this.
should be page 5.
There we go, I think that's it. A functional sub-portfolios. Here it says the allocation, this is under A, functional sub-portfolio. Investment strategy for IPS employs 3 functional sub-portfolios. The allocation to the sub-portfolio is assessed at least every 3 years. Again, I object to the use of the word assessed here. Assessed, like review, means to look at, to consider, to ponder. We are not, this is something we're gonna ponder every year, but possibly revise or consider revisions to every 3 years. So I would ask that we reconsider the use of that particular phrase. A word, I believe it recurs under section 2 below, where, again, we assess the low beta subportfolio. And under 2, low beta subportfolio, it has the phrase, scroll up a little bit, scroll down, perhaps. There we go. There about mid-paragraph, it says, it will contain an absolute return program. I think that should be may contain. We are not absolutely insisting that it contain a low beta absolute return program.
Can I, while you're on that topic, I think it will contain inappropriate, because that includes point C there, which is our immunized cash portfolio, which is the one that's safety to make sure we can make payments. To put it may contain, would that be?
Well, I think it should contain the immunized cash flow portfolio that's separate from absolute return, which is hedge funds. So I don't think we're mandating that hedge fund be part of this portfolio. I'm sorry if this appears tedious, but we need a careful look at a lot of these issues. Under section V1, roles and responsibilities, A, Board of Administration, says the Board of Administration, that is us. Item number 5, that we will select the allocation level performance benchmarks. But then as we move further down to item C, staff, number 2, says that the staff will select individual strategy benchmarks. How might I understand the difference between these two? Or should staff be suggesting benchmarks that are then adopted by the board?
Yeah, I mean, I think my understanding is that the responsibility rests with the board, but the board delegates it to staff and consultants, and then we come up with benchmarks that, of course, you can.
So I think the word selecting then may not be appropriate in this case, maybe suggesting or something along those lines.
Mr. Chair, if I could, selecting is appropriate here for individual strategies, because the manager decision or strategy decision has been delegated to staff. And so, for example, if you have a small cap value manager, you as a board aren't making the decision about what they should be benchmarked to, but staff does, because staff is responsible for monitoring that manager and making sure they add value relative to a benchmark appropriate for their strategy. So that's why that is the distinctive language there.
Okay, I think then the phrase individual strategy benchmark is unclear and doesn't quite specify what you just said. Moving forward.
Your question on the 6A5, the board administration point 5.
6A5.
The first point you brought up. Are you saying, you said you weren't sure that we technically really do that, because in point 2, under staff, they select benchmarks, and then in addition?
Well, I believe it's appropriate under 6A5 that the board be the one to select benchmarks, perform allocation level benchmarks. I was trying to reconcile that with the staff having the responsibility to select what's called individual strategy benchmarks.
And so the individual strategy is not clear enough for you? Is that the issue?
No, it's not. It sounds like that's, I'm not sure what an individual strategy is.
I think perhaps we're
like
thinking of the
India
word
manager
strategy
maybe,
in
or
different ways.
Yeah.
We're referring to an investment manager strategy, a small cap growth manager. You're maybe thinking of the strategy of asset allocation or the portfolio or whatnot. So from our perspective, there are a few levels of benchmarks. There's the manager strategy benchmark, which we do believe should be selected by staff, since the board is not selecting individual investment management strategies. Then there's the allocation or asset class, and the total fund. And so the board is selecting the total fund and the asset
Mhm.
class, because those are the things that
Okay.
it is responsible for, and then the staff is selecting the individual strategy.
So I think clarity would be aided by the inclusion of the word investment manager strategy.
Or perhaps we should change it to implementation benchmark, because that's what it is. It's-
Okay.
And then it's clear, anything implementation related is under the staff purview.
I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
And then your other request was the word may. Can we, since you've got a few, should we just make sure we get some consensus? I'm comfortable with may. I'm assuming the consultants are.
Are you, I'm sorry.
Going back
Going
to the
back to
absolute-
the
back to
inclusion
the
of-
absolute-
For the absolute return?
Yeah, to
Yes,
change it
I've
to-
already made that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you for that. Just a few more little nits. If we could show on the screen the section where we evaluating asset allocation decisions. I'm not quite sure where that appears in the document, but much further down, it's where we define the benchmarks.
It's page 11, it looks like.
Okay. So I'm not sure what I'm looking at is the final version.
11.
Page 11.
Page 11.
There you go. Oh, yeah, here we are. Let's see. Stop there, please. No, scroll back down.
You just scroll down. Other way, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, go back to where you were a few moments ago. Stop.
Perfect.
Stop. Okay, it seems language has been changed from what I have. There's a section on philosophy further down. This is under risk. If we could scroll down in the document. Keep going, much further down.
Page 18.
Page
Thank you.
18, yep.
Okay, slow, stop. So here in the last sentence under the first paragraph, it says related risks such as counterparty, geopolitical, etc., are not addressed in this risk policy. But then if we move forward further down a few paragraphs, under volatility and drawdown of the primary measures, we see that market corrections due to economic recession, geopolitical instability have historically proven detrimental. So these two sentences seem contradictory. Do we or do we not consider geopolitical risk in our evaluation?
So, Mr. Chair, if I could clarify, so the risk policy relates to the risk that you can control. So you cannot control certainly geopolitical risk or fraud or those types of risks. The statement below refers to the fact that while you can't control those, they have at times been impactful on the portfolio. And essentially, I think what this is meant to convey is that while you can't control those risks, you are, through your risk monitoring efforts, monitoring the effects of those risks on your portfolio.
Okay, thank you.
Spencer, I believe we have a time certain item.
Sorry?
Do we have a
It's
time
10. Do we have a
certain?
time certain? Do we need to come back to this?
We need to pause this.
Yes, we do. So let us table this discussion for the moment and deal with our, thank you for apprising me of that, Trustee Vasti. We have a time certain item, which is a disability review at 10 o'clock. What is the status of this disability hearing?
Let me just pull up my notes here. ORS received a request from the applicant for a postponement of this hearing. Let me just remind the board that the disability retirement application rules and procedures say that at the applicant's request and upon showing of good cause, ORS may agree to postpone the scheduled board meeting, provided such request is communicated to and received by ORS more than 5 calendar days in advance of the scheduled meeting, and the next business day if the 30-day decline falls within a weekend or holiday. A maximum of one such postponement may be approved unless further good cause is shown. Definition of good cause in our procedures is good cause is defined under the FCER's Disability Retirement Application Rules and Procedures as excusable neglect, events over which an applicant does not have control, including but not limited to unexpected illness or family emergency or other equitable considerations. The member sent a request to staff. I don't have the date that the email was sent, but it was earlier this week?
Yeah, it was Monday.
Okay, so not outside the
Tuesday.
5-day outside the 5-day window. So we requested the applicant to give a statement of good cause, and I'm just going to read the email that was sent into the record, as I don't believe the applicant is here or online. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. The email reads, hello, Amy. Thanks for responding and sharing the Federated Disability Retirement Application Rules and Procedures and the specific clause which I am now aware of but was not before. As you can imagine, this information is not known to the general public. My request for postponing my hearing is of an equitable nature, as I now have an on-site client meeting on 6/26, which was previously scheduled online. Serving and supporting my clients is how I'm able to supplement my retirement from the city of San Jose. Additionally, a different approach on my part for participating in the full board hearing is necessary, as my disability request was denied by the board committee. This new approach involves legal representation, which I am working to secure. I trust the board can appreciate these two reasons why I cannot participate in the 6/26 meeting and is willing to grant me a new date. Thank you. With that, I am going to ask if Sandra could explain the steps that the staff took to schedule the hearings and to provide the steps that was provided to give the member the rules for which we run the disability process.
Sure. And I'll ask the board, I have about 19 steps to go over for the record, so just ask a little patience as I go through that. So we did provide Ms. Barnes the disability rules on 3 occasions. Oops, I'll bring this up here. The first one is on February 28th, 2024. We again emailed her the rules on August 23rd, 2024, and we last sent her the rules on June 2nd, 2025. In terms of the timeline, just as a reminder, she attended the Disability Committee meeting on September 9th, 2024. On September 18th, staff sent her a letter requesting to schedule the board hearing. On October 14th, Ms. Barnes replied requesting that she have a full hearing after the new year. On February 13th, 2025, staff reached out to schedule a board hearing date. We suggested a date in May. Ms. Barnes replied and said she was traveling in May and wanted to look later in the year. And that was on March 2nd. On March 11th, staff emailed her a list of 3 possible dates in May, June, and August. On March 12th, Ms. Barnes requested the June 26th meeting date today. On June 2nd, staff emailed Ms. Barnes a confirmation and included the disability rules at that time. On June 10th, Ms. Barnes confirmed that she will be attending the full hearing today on June 26th. On June 18th, staff sent a reminder email to Ms. Barnes along with a Zoom link. On June 23rd, which was Tuesday, Ms. Barnes sent the email that John just read. Staff did follow up with Ms. Barnes on the 23rd, suggesting, well, actually, I think Ms. Barnes sent the email, that email that John read was not the email we got on the 23rd. We got an email on the 23rd that she wanted to postpone. In coordination with Reed Smith, we sent her another email on the 23rd explaining the disability rules, explaining what good cause is, and requesting again that she send us what her good cause was for the record for the board. And then she sent us the email that John sent, and she sent that on the 23rd. And then yesterday, staff reached out one final time to Ms. Barnes, reminding her once again of good cause, reminding her that if the board did not find good cause, that the hearing would be held, reminding her that we would suggest out of abundance of caution she arrange her schedule that she attends. So we've done that twice now, and then yesterday Ms. Barnes confirmed once again that she would not be attending.
Great, thank you, Sandra. Mariah, anything you'd like to add on this topic?
Sure, just to make it clear that the reason you all are hearing this record right now is because the request to reschedule the hearing was on June 23rd, and because the request was outside of the 5-day window that would enable ORS to grant the postponement, staff did not have the authority to grant the untimely request. As a result, the matter is now before you all to determine whether good cause exists to postpone Ms. Barnes's hearing.
And what risk or liability would accrue to the board if we were to approve or deny this request based on our understanding of the facts?
Sure. Well, we do know that according to Ms. Barnes, she is seeking counsel to represent her before the board. So that's an important fact to keep in mind.
So we're simply voting on whether or not we accept her late notice to not hear this disability case today, but to defer it to a future time. And that future time is not determined at this point.
Not determined?
And may not even occur possibly.
And I will add also a finding of whether she has good cause to postpone.
Good cause.
That's where I'm stuck.
Okay.
John-
Trustee Faulkner?
Our CEO Flynn, I think you read it. Can you repeat what it classifies good cause?
Sure, let me repeat. Good cause is defined under the disability retirement application rules and procedures as excusable neglect, events over which an applicant does not have control, including but not limited to unexpected illness or family emergencies or other equitable considerations.
And she cited other equitable considerations in her.
It's a rather broad definition.
She does, she cites 2 reasons. One is equitable concerns concerning her work,
Lively.
and the other one is the fact that she's seeking representation.
Any other questions or comments from trustees? By the way, we cannot at all fault staff for failure to communicate with this applicant. We appreciate all the work you did to schedule this and to follow through on all the requirements that we have. to communicate with her.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I was gonna make
Okay.
a similar comment.
Okay. It's a personal pleasure of mine to beat the vice chair to these things.
It happened. You do it all the time. You should,
No, you go, you can.
you're comfortable with that now.
Any comments or thoughts from trustees on whether or not we should find just cause and approve the delay?
I have one.
Go ahead, Trustee Faulkner.
I'm a little torn, just as the initial thoughts here. As the Disability Committee, and I think Trustee Linder can speak to this, and former Vice Chair Jennings, is we put in a ton of effort, and staff put in a ton of effort to help build up policies and procedures to make this process more streamlined for all the beneficiaries of this plan that need to go through this process. And these are the types of hurdles that slow down that process for all other members, is people not following rules when they've been laid out in front of you multiple times over and over again, and at their disposal to contact staff, and they reply, as I said, within a day. I mean, they're really doing a good job getting these disability hearings through. That this sort of activity where the members aren't taking it, or aren't going by the rules that they agreed to and have been shown, is just causing more and more hurdles for staff to get through other people that are trying to move through this process following those procedures. So I think it's I'm not going to necessarily comment, it might fit under other equitable issues, but the general notion is I'm not in favor of these sort of extensions. Obviously, under the law, if it fits inside the good cause, that's a different story. So that's up for discussion for us right now. But in general, I think we have to stand our ground against this, we'll just accommodate every person that comes through for whatever they want to do, even though they don't want to go with what is shared in front of them. So I'll make that comment generally as we probably work into a more detailed discussion on the equitable good cause.
Okay. Well, I don't want to spend too much time on this topic. Any other thoughts or comments?
No, I think, Mr. Chair, that Trustee Faulkner is making a compelling comment. There is that frustration. I do also feel, though, that since she is seeking counsel, that I'm okay with delaying it so she can follow up with that. I think that's reason, even if it's frustrating and disappointing.
Yeah, I think the chair concurs with both comments. I think it's unfortunate that the applicant did not adhere more closely to the procedures, although we should not let that prejudice us in any future judgment on her application. But I think it would behoove us to err on the side of generosity to the process and allow the applicant to seek outside counsel to pursue this further.
And I'm okay if we schedule it in 2028.
Okay. We'll allow them to advise us when they'll be ready for the hearing. So with that said, would anyone like to formulate a motion here?
May I make a comment?
Okay.
It might be helpful if we're going to grant a postponement, or if the board is going to grant the postponement, that we give some sort of timeline, so that we can stay on a schedule and continue to, and we'll obviously communicate that well with the member and coordinate. But if the board were to postpone, to give some suggestion of how long we should allow it, because again, this is outside the rules.
Well, is there anything in the relevant rules or statutes that would have us set a timeline? I mean, I think applicants can come forward at any point that they feel that they have a claim against the city or claim against the pension plan.
Sure, of course, but this is the recommendation that's coming from the committee. So, when would you like to schedule the case to be reheard? And then we can work with the applicant to coordinate.
Okay, just to be clear, the case would not be reheard at the committee level. It would be reheard here at the full board.
Correct.
It's at the board now. I can move that we grant the extension so she can gather legal counsel, and that we have a hearing within the next 6 months.
Okay.
And look at the agenda, is what I'm after. They look at the agenda, so it's not on an agenda that's jammed with stuff.
Okay.
So my question for that, or
Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And maybe Trustee Linder, your thoughts is September 9th-ish was the hearing, or September 2024, that timeframe, right? So it's been 9 months and counsel hasn't been found, and the process was known the next week with, hey, you can appeal to the board. That setting a 6-month time window on now finding counsel to do it when it's taken 9 months and hasn't, I don't know if that's inside the scope of what the applicant would be interested in having. If that's, I don't know how long it takes to find counsel for this sort of stuff. But if that's one of the reasons, and it's been 9 months without counsel, does that mean there needs to be another longer time period? I would ask that in terms of putting a time limit. I support putting a time limit on it so we can hear it and move through the process, but if
My
that's an
main
equitable
interest-
concern, then
My main interest on the time is so the staff can work to make sure it doesn't come onto a board meeting that is overloaded.
that's fair.
That's all. I mean, so it's just trying to, I'm not worried so much about,
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about the board's time
Mm-hmm.
and that's used.
And just a comment, Chair,
Mhm.
and you just kind of stole my thunder. Thank both of you guys for reading my minds today. It feels to me applicant had plenty of time to find counsel, so I'm less moved by that as an equitable. So it doesn't fit the definition for me. Potentially the economic issue, but you know, people can't keep postponing for that reason either, right? We have to weigh that against our administrative burden. So I could be inclined to give this applicant one free pass on that, but I don't agree with the legal as falling under the definition, given it's been 9 months.
Trustee Nakagawa?
Sandra, in all those multiple communications, was it ever told to the applicant that they can/should seek counsel at any point?
In the original application, there's a space for them to indicate whether or not they have counsel. We don't advise them. We ask them if they have counsel, or we look at the application and see if they've indicated that. But we don't do any additional.
It's not an advising role, but if they do, we would work with their counsel.
I don't think it's typical for an agency to advise on that.
Okay, but the applicant had awareness that this option was available to them?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems, I mean, in June 10th, the applicant confirmed that June 26th is great, which is only 2 weeks before, and then switch it last minute. So I certainly agree with Trustee Chandra on the economic equitable cause impact is we don't have enough information to say anything other. So I think I agree with that, with the pass idea, but I also am a little like.
My only point is I could be moved to say one time, I consult, so maybe I'm being overly empathetic to the needs of a client that demands something within the 5-day window, but again, I just was clarifying the legal, for me, I don't think it fits the definition. Maybe the economic does, maybe.
Mm-hmm. So I'm getting a lot of feelings about this. We've had, I think, one motion from Trustee Linder, which was, if I can restate it, that the applicant be granted a 6-month window in which to resubmit, and hopefully we can work it onto an agenda that is otherwise thin, but that's kind of my jar as chair to figure out the agendas and staff. Is there a second for that motion? So this would be accepting her claim of, what's the phrase?
Good cause.
Good cause, thank you. But putting it, a time frame of 6 months on her revisiting. Is that something we can do, that we can put a time frame on that? I'm not even sure. Do we have the legal ability to do that?
Sure, you can direct staff when it comes to figuring out scheduling for the hearing.
Okay, but would that be something that, if she didn't meet that requirement, that would leave us open to liability if she sought legal counsel after the fact, that we were unduly restricting the process to prejudice the case against her?
The rules are silent on this particular instance, which is why it's brought to you all to determine what you feel is good cause, as well as what you think is reasonable when it comes to a timeline, just to make sure that the case is not lingering for years with someone trying to find counsel.
In a way, we are setting a precedent here.
I'm speaking to the mic.
We are setting a precedent here, since the rules are silent, so this can be
We are
followed
setting a
on for
precedent,
future
yep.
cases as well.
Okay, so we do, again, have the motion on the floor from trustee Linder. Is there a second for that motion?
I'm seconding.
That's a second from trustee Abbott. Any further discussion from trustees? Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we are going to vote. Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Nakagama?
May I abstain?
You may.
I abstain.
Okay. Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra?
Abstain.
Trustee Faulkner?
Nay.
You say no? Trustee Linder?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. So,
It carried.
yeah.
But you did it with the time.
This is with the 6-month time constraint,
Yep.
that we accept her good cause excuse that we're not hearing today. All right, thank you all trustees for hearing this matter. Let's take a 5-minute break here at 10:20, and we will return to the IPS issue.
Recording stopped.
prepared to resume?
Recording in progress.
We can recall the witnesses, as it were.
Yes, we can.
And I understand there is someone waiting to comment, and just remind that person that we will hear their comment, or if there are multiple people, but that will wait to the point where we're actually considering a motion. That's the appropriate point where comments are taken on the agenda. And we're not quite there yet.
So we're back to 5A, right?
We are back to item 5A. This is a discussion and action on the investment policy statement revisions. And I think we were going through a number of relatively minor issues that I had found. I think one was the changing the phrase will to simply may on the inclusion of absolute return as part of the non-growth portfolio. And the second was the further definition of the benchmarks that staff establishes for managers as opposed to the benchmarks that the board sets for overall asset allocation.
I think it was implementation benchmark. Was that the phrase?
Implementation of some further language there to further distinguish. And if we go down to what appears on my thing as page 42, which is Appendix C, which is the functional asset class classifications. You can scroll down there. Okay, a little bit more, a little bit further, a little bit further. Yeah, so I'm seeing redlined that the subject of commodities has been removed from the other classification. And while I am not a huge fan of commodities as part of our portfolio, I don't know if we meant to actually exclude it as an investable class for the plan. Was that simply a mistake or oversight?
Mr. Chair, no, that was intentional because the title or the definitions are for asset class classifications, and that is not currently an asset class that is in use by the system. And so we thought to make it a little bit less confusing is to focus on the asset classes and sub-asset classes in which the system actually invests.
Understood, but doesn't it seem prudent to include all potential or possible asset classes as opposed to, I understand we don't have any investment there currently, but we might in the future, or we might consider some.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any harm in including it. We could include art, wine, wine futures,
If we include commodities, then we'll have to.
cryptocurrency.
Don't forget
Well,
cryptocurrency.
Makita models 108 asset classes, which I realize there
We
aren't
can
really
include all of
108
them.
distinct asset classes, but this is not designed to be a list of permissible asset classes, but rather ones that are in there now. If the asset allocation is changed to include commodities, then we need to update the IPS anyway and could do so here as well.
Then perhaps retitle Appendix C to be current functional asset class classifications.
Perfect.
Okay. And again, I'll turn it over. Any trustees have any further comments, insights, quibbles?
I like those changes.
Okay.
There are certain strategy limits for investment management firms, which I believe it's, I don't know which section it is, but it is after section number 8.
Can we go to section number 8 so we
Under
can see it on the big screen?
general constraints and parameters. I don't think it's in the clean version because it's been deleted. I believe it's been moved to the investment implementation procedures.
You're saying it's in the red line version?
That it's been taken out and moved into
It's
the
in-
investment.
It's in the red line, but not in the clean version because it's been moved.
So thank
The
you for the
strategy
question,
limits-
trustee. It's been moved to page 5 of the implementation procedures because those limits relate to individual investment strategies or managers. And again, since that authority was delegated to staff, we think it was more appropriate. And what we've seen, again, in our review of sort of industry best practices, that in this type of governance structure where that implementation, decision-making has been delegated, then those types of constraints generally reside within this staff document.
So when it comes to the procedures, what is the review process of the procedures? Is there a section in it?
So I believe under the section, I don't know if it's section 8 or section 7, but there is language that says that on an annual basis, this implementation policy will be brought to the investment committee just to review with the committee and if there was any changes or to hear any feedback from the committee. So there is an annual oversight, if you will, process for the implementation. And if you give me a second, I can probably find that exact language in the revised draft.
And a board can always pull back delegation. I mean, not that I would ever advocate, well, if we had a change in the CIO in the office maybe, but we can always pull that back. But while they have it, it's inappropriate to have that much detail in the IPS for a variety of reasons.
And that language regarding the annual oversight by the investment committee is at the bottom of page 14, number B. Oh, right there. You can see it on the screen, item B at the bottom.
Procedures shall include any checklist and templates used in due diligence. Staff will present a sample due diligence.
That's a
Invest-
sample.
Oh, no,
due
I'm sorry.
diligence.
That's not it.
Okay.
That's on the review of the procedures itself.
While this is being searched, Chair, could I ask a quick question to you?
Yes.
If there's just very minor structural problem, like alignment issues that I've seen,
Mhm.
like formatting, can we
Okay.
do that after the vote? That doesn't need to, that can all be adjusted.
Yeah,
after,
I think
'cause of the
we'll
content
vote on the language. I think
Yeah.
we don't need to vote on the formatting. So,
So I can
Oh.
just send those, I don't have to present any of those, I can just
Okay.
keep a list of those, huh?
okay.
Please
Th-
don't.
Thank you, Professor Faulkner.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
We can just throw those down while we're waiting.
So we did add a sentence actually back to item B. It's actually the top of page 15 and essentially refers to the fact that the selection of investment manager that will contravene any provision of the policy or the procedure shall require the approval of the investment committee.
There is a, can
So
you,
where is that in this version of the
Yeah, on
document?
page
That's that one
15,
line at
right
the
there,
top,
the top
above
of the
C.
page, right
Oh, you
before
were-
C.
Go back to B.
It's the bottom of B, top of,
The selection of an investment manager that would contravene a provision of this policy or the procedures shall require approval by the investment committee.
that's the exception procedure, right? I think what I'm referring to is the review of the investment procedure itself. Like, at what cadence is the procedure going to be reviewed? Because it contains important items, like its strategy limits. So these are the investment limits. These are the things that we are delegating. So I'm wondering, how would the board maintain an oversight on these strategy limits?
so actually that's on the bottom of page, I'm sorry to have you jump around. It's in the implementation document on page 4, item 8.
So that's not in this document, but a separate document.
Right.
Is it possible to pull that document
I
up so
think
we can?
she's trying to.
Okay.
What section was that again? I apologize.
Well, it's the manager selection process, so
Section 8.
It's across a couple of items under manager selection process. So item 8A,
This would be attachment 5A8.
5.
yes.
Spencer, I think there's a newer one. I think it might be, oh, it's probably the same, but 5A3 looks like the date might be nearly the same. 5A3.
Okay, so this is the process, if we can scroll down a little bit further.
Eileen, you said point number 8 is what you're pointing us to?
CIO shall provide
Yes,
members with a single.
and again,
That's
I think what
already-
we have is we have different sections in the IPS and in the implementation that refer to decisions that result from implementation of this policy, if you will, or adherence to this policy to the investment committee. We could just add to the IPS a line that says on an annual basis, the investment committee or the CIO shall review the implementation procedures with the investment committee, if you would like. That's
Yeah,
fine.
and I would also suggest that if there's any change in those strategy limits that might be reported to the board, like
Well,
kind
that-
of like a reporting element to it in the implementation procedures.
Yeah, I was actually gonna suggest that any change that has to be immediately, within 30, 60 days, and we can make the review once every year or once every 3 years, but if there's a change that we have to be notified
Okay.
immediately.
At the following board meeting.
At the following board
Yeah.
meeting, yeah.
Or, I
That's
mean-
reasonable.
Yeah, I guess should we do it at the IC level?
Do it at
Because,
the
like,
IC and then-
Disability, and then,
Bring it to the board at the following meeting. At the immediately following IC,
okay,
and
bring it
then
to
the board.
Okay.
Whatever,
It's
yeah.
just a reporting thing, like so that the board maintains an
Yeah,
oversight.
but what if we don't want, the committee should take some action as to whether or not we're supportive or not, and then bring it to the
To the
board for
board.
potentially, changing a policy, because that we have to have the ability to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds reasonable. Okay.
And then within the, I don't remember if it is in the implementation procedures or, I think you were referring to the exception reporting, right? If there is anything that contravenes the policy or the procedures, then
think-
it is reported, right? Is it reported to the investment committee or is it
The-
reported to the
Yeah,
board?
in the implementation, if it's deviated for any manager selection, that is reported to the committee. And now we're also adding the language you just talked about.
Yeah, so this is a separate point. So we take care of the reporting of
Mhm.
the procedures, or any edits in the procedures. Now I'm referring to if there is an exception, in the sense that if there is any selection which contravenes with the policy,
Yeah.
or it contravenes with the procedures.
That has to be brought to the investment committee for their approval. That's what
Yeah.
the second part of B says.
In the
That's what I
IPS.
was saying.
But doesn't it should go to the board in terms of the best practice?
Because it's an investment manager, just a single manager, that wouldn't warrant elevation to the board because it's not related to asset class or the strategy setting purview of the board. But a single investment strategy, that typically would be only brought to the investment committee. Again, under this governance type of structure where staff is implementation authority. Which
And-
makes sense because an individual manager comprises maybe basis points contribution to the total fund, so that doesn't warrant the attention, if you will, or the time of the board, the full board, that is.
And of
Yeah,
course, the
that-
investment committee can always decide to elevate anything to the board.
Correct.
That makes sense, but in terms of, I'm wondering in terms of any strategic stuff, if there is any kind of exception, is there a language in the investment policy that requires escalation to the board?
I would say the board's already reviewing all of the strategies, at least quarterly, with the reporting around, you know, is every asset class within its target range? So the board's gonna be notified immediately of anything like that anyway.
And there are limits within the procedures, and that applies to exceptions. So between those limits and the IPS, I would imagine there's very few exceptions, but if they are, they would be elevated to the investment committee, who could then bring it to the full board.
All the strategy stuff the board will set, but so this will be related to them deviating from an implementation policy that we have delegated to them.
You're right.
And
So for
then
the-
they would bring it to the committee on an individual manager basis.
Right, for the implementation procedures, it makes sense, right? Like, it's handled at the investment committee level. But I'm wondering, if it comes to, for instance, a strategic asset allocation, if there's any deviation.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
you,
is, I know you have flexibility in that, right? We have delegated that.
Yeah.
But if it goes beyond, I think.
and every
there's a-
quarter, so today we'll review last quarter's asset allocation limits, right? You will see the SAA targets and where the portfolio is. So every quarter, the board does review it.
Yeah. And just to be really finicky about this, they have a little tactical budget that they've been given, but
Yeah.
we control asset allocation, not them. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's our,
but
one of our main fiduciary duties.
my point was, you know, normally in all the policies, and I'm saying this from the city side as well, there's always a clause on exception reporting. Like, and we are supposed to be bound by the limits, but in case it happens. I mean,
Yeah.
the staff makes all the efforts that it will never happen, but in case it happens, there's always a clause like
Yeah.
what to do. So I'm wondering if that clause
I mean,
is
it's
in
there,
Is
every
that-
quarter we bring it, so if you want it to be greater frequency than quarterly.
No, I don't want to change
I think under
the
rebalancing,
cadence.
there is, there's certain guardrails for how much they can drift from the approved asset allocation to a class. So there can be some
Yeah.
movement within it,
And
and
if they
then,
go outside that, we will know on a quarterly basis.
and then we would, and then they don't have the authority to go outside a certain guardrail without understaff's own, volition.
But she's also about, if it happens accidentally, you are reporting it to us on a quarterly basis.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Is that, do you
Yeah,
think that's
I mean,
satisfactory?
if it's a part of the procedure, yes, that's fine.
Okay.
But I was just wondering if that needs to be explicitly stated
Mhm.
in the policy.
Well, I think the rebalancing explicitly states what the guardrails are, what the limits are. Is that not in the IPS? I believe
No,
it
it
is.
does, I think Trustee Avasti's point is more reporting
It's more on the
Oh,
report.
than
more
us
reporting.
adhering to
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I see.
And which is right now quarterly, but
Mhm.
if it needs to be, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't suggest that we change
Yeah.
that
Okay.
cadence. It's just that how do we draft the policy?
Mhm. Okay. Any other insights, questions?
I think we are referring to peers and best practices at a couple of places. I'm wondering if, so that it stands a test of time, like how do we know which peers are we referring to when we are setting these different
So
rules?
this document is not, once it's set, carved in stone. It's meant to be a living document that is reviewed every, let's call it 5 years or so. I think that's the time frame that is stipulated in this draft. And it's incumbent upon us, your external consultants. One of the roles we play for you all is keeping you abreast of industry best practices. And how are we abreast of them is because we're working with dozens and dozens of plans, public plans and others, as well as frequently interacting with the investment management community, both the buy side and the sell side. So we really, we're meant to sort of be your eyes and ears in the industry with regard to best practices. And so that's why we were selected to sort of lead this policy review process, is because we have that lens into how those best practices, what the current trends are, and then this cyclical review that we undertake of the policy is when we review all the language in depth as we have here, to ensure that it aligns, given your fund's unique governance and other needs, it aligns with best practices?
It's a good question because every fund is different, as you know. There are some sources like surveys from, there's a National Association of State Retirement Plans that surveys, many dozens of plans on how often they do an asset allocation study, for example. So that's where the 3 to 5 years comes from. But much of the information is sort of taken from other groups that we work with. It's a reason that it's good that everyone is scrutinizing this policy because, every fund is different and what works for one fund might not work for another. And much of this is based on sort of accumulated knowledge over time rather than any one source.
I believe there's another point I want to make. There's an annual fee report under section 8C, section 2.
Can we see that up on the board?
It's in the policy, not the procedures.
Oh, policy and procedures document.
8C, page 15.
Fees and expenses, there we go.
Fees and expenses is it this one?
I'm sorry, trustee Avasti,
No,
was that
not-
8C?
8.
Section
Yes.
8C?
Yes, 8C.
On 15?
It's under manager selection, retention, evaluation.
Fees?
No, it's not this one.
I think you want to go higher up on, back to C, if I understand.
Quiet period?
There you go.
No, it's not this one.
Quiet
Manager
period?
selection.
Are you in a different,
It's not manager selection.
you're in the
Fees that you want?
other policy and procedure document, or are you in the IPS?
The IPS.
Then it's
Uh,
switched back
And,
to
and
this.
section, is it 8C? I'm having a
Yes.
hard time understanding.
It's 8, it's manager selection, retention, evaluation, termination policy.
C,
8C is in Charlie.
yeah, so page 13 of the
Yes, this
IPS.
one. So C, go to point 2, scroll down. So this, I believe it's in B, yes. So subsection B, it mentions annual fee report, right? This was a quarterly report.
No, this is the annual fee report that's discussed at the board and then taken to the city council.
And even in the original one, it used to be annual all the time because I don't know, maybe it's my red line, it says quarterly.
No, the fee report is once a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, you guys were the first to start doing that fee report.
When did we first start doing it?
You were
Well, I
it
think-
was not done previously.
It was done a couple of years before I got
Okay.
here. So we've done it for about 10 years
So,
now.
like, my red line shows quarterly, which is related to annual, so I don't know.
The fee report's always been annual. It takes a
Yeah,
while.
it's a tremendous exercise.
takes a
We
while
get
to
annual
implement
fee
it.
reports from managers. I mean, it's a 3-month process.
And it's submitted to IC.
It's IC,
No, the fee
We-
report goes
fee
to
report
the
goes to the board and
to
then
the
to the
council.
city
Okay.
council.
And to
Yeah.
the city.
Mm.
Okay, I see why you made the edit because it mentions IC in the original
Oh,
one.
I see, yeah.
Okay. I believe the last one that I have is, let's see. So you have this risk policy, operating ranges and limit targets, and there is a board approved limit on funded ratio which says 5% probability of falling below 60% was the previous one, and then that's been changed to 5% probability of falling below 40%.
Would you let us know where you are?
Yeah.
And that's a table in Appendix B.
Appendix B.
Appendix B.
Yes, the first
There
one.
we go.
So this one used to be 5% probability of falling below 60%. And I understand that we are barely making 60.
You're talking
We are
about the-
barely making to 60, I understand that, but I'm wondering, is there anything that I'm missing here when we revise 60 to 48?
You're talking about the funded ratio?
funded ratio, yes.
Board-approved limit.
The original version says 60, and then it's being edited to 48.
So, yes, thank you for that question. When we updated the Federated asset allocation policy, I guess 2 years ago, we undertook, periodically, we undertake a full risk, what we call enterprise risk study for the fund. And at that time, we provided an analysis which showed different probabilities under the new or then approved asset allocation policy of falling below a particular funded status. So that changed as a result of that review. So this policy was just simply updated to review the results of what the board approved from the last risk study. So updated information from the actuary on the liabilities, et cetera, would have informed this limit, and that's why it changed.
Okay. And remind me the cadence of the risk study?
The risk study, I think that's every 3 to 5 years as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I had.
Okay, any further comments? So I think we have discussed amongst us 4 possible amendments to the IPS, if I'm counting correctly. And if I can recount them, one is to change will to may with regard to the inclusion of hedge funds under the low-growth subportfolio. A further definition of the benchmarks that are under the staff review for selection. The reattribution of Appendix C as simply being current asset classes. And then finally, number 4, a sentence of annual board review of the implementation procedures and the IC review of any changes to implementation procedures.
The one with
Was
respect to
annual-
that last change, Trustee
annual.
Horowitz, I think the review would be by the IC rather than the board.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So with those items identified, would anyone like to formulate a motion on acceptance, rejection, or amendment of the IPS?
I will make a motion to approve based on those 4 suggested amendments to the draft that was presented to us today.
Okay?
Chair, one question. So on your last point, the review is by IC, but then if there's any edit, that's also going to IC, or is it coming to the board?
No, this is going to take place in the committee. If there's some deviation that the committee thinks should go to the board, it will
Okay.
be in the discretion of the committee.
Okay.
It's too tactical for the board.
Okay.
All right, thanks for the clarity.
So that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Trustee Faulkner. Now is the time for public comment on the motion. Do we have any public comment on the motion?
Can I
Let's see
identify?
if he's gonna say.
We may have,
Mr. Brad Imora? Yeah.
okay, we may have bored him to death. Any further trustee comments before we vote? Let me just ask one question of staff. Police and Fire also has to approve their version of the IPS. I believe currently the IPS for both boards are identical, or is that not the case?
It's identical, but just like the feedback that we
Mhm.
got from your board
Mm-hmm.
today, they may also, I mean, we will present these changes.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make these changes and present it to the Police and
To
Fire
them.
Board. So hopefully it'll also address some of their
I see.
questions, yeah.
And will it complicate your life a little bit or tremendously if they ultimately decide on an IPS that is radically different or
Oh, if it's
substantially-
radically different, it will complicate my life tremendously. But if there's a word that's different, word change here or there, should be okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second before the board. I'll give another chance for public comment. I'm seeing that there is none. We will, if there's no other trustee comment, we can vote. Trustee Abbott? Trustee Nakagama?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra?
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So we have a new IPS,
Congratulations.
and
A lot of work goes into this.
it certainly does.
Yeah,
So I'm
actually,
just,
we should thank staff and the consultants. There was a ton of work. It's been going on for a few months. I know the board dealt with it last board meeting, this board meeting, and thank you to the trustees for the great questions, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a tremendous discussion, so thank you all for reading and being very diligent about reading through this and your comments.
Yeah.
And certainly, I mean, the bulk of the load was, we wanted this to be a consultant-driven document, not a
Mhm.
staff-driven document. So a lot of the work was done by Eileen, supported by Laura, so, yeah.
very good, thank you. Thank you to all involved.
And I just want to say, I think you guys should be commended as well for, I know you may think, gee, this took a long time, but it should. It's your governing document, and you should all feel comfortable with the provisions, because this should hopefully get you through the next 5 to 7 years, whatever the markets may bring. But it's a good guiding document, and so I commend you all for your time in reviewing and your feedback. So thank you.
So just a question, the separate investment implementation procedures document, is that something that needs board approval?
No.
So that is something that exists as a separate staff document that doesn't need our approval directly. Okay. I believe we're ready to turn back to agenda item 4A, which is an oral update from our CIO.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, we've spent over an hour on investments already, so I will jump to the important stuff. Drum roll, please. So fiscal year to date, the pension system is up 8.79%.
Up what?
8.79. We have 2 trading days left, so I've sent a message to the White House that we don't need anything on X or Twitter.
Can we just disconnect our
Yeah.
terminals for 2 days?
Exactly. And the healthcare trust is up 10.18%. So these are, of course, estimates from Makita. We will have clean numbers after fiscal year end, and if the markets are quiet, we should be good.
You think that'll keep you top decile? Keep your streak alive?
I don't know if it'll keep us top decile, but I'm more interested in making sure that we beat the discount rate
Fair
for
enough.
sure. So
Fair
I
enough.
think we are there, which is great for the city. It's great for beneficiaries as well.
Mm.
So good. So we're going to actually go back and discuss last quarter's investment performance. We do this quarterly, and as you all know, private markets are lagged by one further quarter. So with that, I'm going to turn this over. I don't know if is it Casey?
Yes.
Casey Boyer and Dinesh.
Great.
Great, thank you. I will share my screen in 1 minute. Okay, hopefully everyone can see. We are going to discuss, as we said, on a lag, the Q4 numbers today for your program. We actually did recently release Q1 as well, so I can just kind of give you some verbal updates there. You're familiar with page 2, but just kind of showing all the high level statistics. Q4 was actually a pretty good quarter when it comes to distributions for the program. And I know I've spoken about this for the last 2 years, but distributions across the private equity market have been drastically down from historical levels. If you compare it to net asset value, very much down, where historically there was about 20% of annual distributions versus NAV, that would be around a 20%. It has gone down to around 12%. So overall, across the market, distributions and exits have been down. However, we did have a pretty good quarter for your program. We had a couple pretty big co-investment distributions. So investments that we had made directly into portfolio companies. We had a couple realizations there. And over the quarter, we were able to distribute 12.5, around 12.5 million back to the program. And since then, post December 31st, we've distributed almost 6 million. So starting to see some elements in the market, but it kind of was a start to 2025, and then it kind of reverted back on Liberation Day. So if we're looking at the performance, was really close to par for Q4. You'll see the net return here for Series 1 at 1.9 times, and for Series 2 right at 1.2 times. And that, as a reminder, Series 1 are the investments we made from May of 2017 through kind of mid-23, and then Series 2 is the exact same investment strategy, just a new series or a new tranche. So that new tranche is where we are actively committing dollars out of currently. Q1, we did, as I mentioned, release those numbers as well. The quarter was very much on par, really not a lot of valuation movement. So when I'm back here the next quarter, it will be a similar discussion in terms of overall net performance. I'm going to move back to starting on slide 11, so we can dig into performance a little bit more. At the top there, you'll see the gross performance by investment type. And so you can really see how the return profiles of the different investment types show through. Co-investments really do typically tend to be our highest performing investment type, which is why we include a good portion in the portfolio. Primaries take a little bit longer to develop, so we will definitely see some upward movement there, but that can be expected over a year's time period. So all seems to be trending in the right direction there. And then at the bottom, you can see our performance benchmarking on a net basis. You'll see the difference here between last quarter and Q4. So again, we went up very slightly, but not a huge movement. Compared to what it looks like compared to the benchmark right here. That's Series 1. Series 2, you'll see, again, kind of this early performance by investment type. This is very, very early. There's only, a handful of investments in this, so we'll continue to invest. Those investments will continue to mature. And this is just very early to look at this type of information, but we like to put it here anyway, just so you can kind of see what that means. We did obviously have a good secondary investment, which is amazing, but that was, at this point, only about 3% of your commitment. And then you'll see the benchmarking analysis. We do not benchmark at this point in time, simply because benchmarks aren't available. They wait a couple years at least for those performance numbers to even be relevant. So you'll see the difference here between Q3 and Q4. We did go up slightly, which is great. We'll see this probably continue to move up and down over the next year or two, just due to the fact that we're investing capital, that capital goes in at cost. And so it kind of averages down over time, but we have seen some early momentum there as well. So with that, I'm going to take a pause. I know you guys have had a long meeting so far, so I wanted to be efficient, but I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Trustee, Vice Chair Chandra.
Before I ask a question, this is also maybe Director Prabhu. Would it be possible at an investment committee meeting to go through TVPI calculations and how they mark these portfolios outside of exit? I mean, this is more private equity than venture, so I know there isn't private markups, but I don't know, each manager tends to have their own policy, so it'd probably be good for us to know
Sure.
what that looks like, because TVPI is kind of a funny number.
Yeah.
I don't mean funny as in weird, I mean as in
I
kind
know,
of fake.
yeah. We can agendize it for.
And then my next question is, what is in the secondaries portfolio? Are these purchases of LP interests or purchases of direct interests in companies?
Yeah, in fact, we have a document which I think is going to be circulated at the next IC, or?
It will be sent to the IC members.
It'll be sent to the IC. We just discussed it at our team meeting a couple of days ago.
Okay.
But Dinesh can
So the
elaborate
answer,
on that. Yeah.
what is in it, it's a combination of purchase of LP interests in existing funds as well as GP-led secondaries such as continuation vehicles.
And the one that helped create an outlier so quickly, was that an LP interest or was that a direct?
This was an LP interest.
That was an LP interest. Okay,
Yeah, it was a nice discount.
great. So an LP that was in distress and we were able to take advantage of the situation? That sounds so bad the way I phrased it.
Taking advantage of distress is a very good business model.
So,
there's nothing pejorative about that.
and then my last question is, in Series 2, what do we anticipate being re-up in existing managers from Series 1 and versus new managers?
Yeah, so far in Series 2, we've made 5 primary commitments to date, and 2 of them are re-ups of existing managers, and the remainder are new managers. So we are always looking for changes when necessary, such as when a manager gets larger than their ability to execute a particular strategy. So we're not just set and continue to re-up just for the sake of re-upping.
I love to hear that. Okay, thank you.
Any questions from other trustees? Okay. Proceed.
Oh, is Casey done?
I think so.
Okay,
To item 4C then?
Thank you, Casey.
All right, moving on, members of the board to the full private markets report. We have, that is not the right slide. We have here on page 1 of the public version of the private markets report as of December 31st, 2024, the top level private markets asset class performance. I draw your attention to the internal rate of return, or IRR, for each program, which is in the second column from the right, and how that compares to the public markets equivalent internal rate of return if you had put those same dollars into public markets indexes and taken those same dollars out at the same time as your partnerships here. The venture capital program is the only program that has a return below its public markets equivalent. And you can see that that program was just started in 2021. So we consider that to be quite an immature program in an asset class that does take a number of years to realize a return. Starting out with the private debt program here, you can see that the private debt program as of the end of December stood at 3.7% of the total portfolio relative to a 3% target. It had its since inception IRR of 6.5%. There were 3 new investments, each made in the amount of $7 million during the fourth quarter of 2024. And you can see the performance by vintage year of each individual fund or investment on pages 5 and 6. You can see that in particular in the more recent years that have meaningful returns here, 2020 on, you generally see quite strong returns relative to peer IRRs. Moving on, moving on to the private real assets program, you can see that as of the end of December, it stood at 2.5% of the fund relative to a 3% policy target. There were 2 new investments in the amounts of $7 and $5 million to Pelican and Lime Rock during the fourth quarter. And you can see the performance sorted by each fund here as well on pages 11 and 12. I'm glossing over in the interest of time the diversification pie charts here, but you can see for each program the diversification by geography and type of strategy and vintage year. For the private real estate program, assets stood at 3.8% of the total system relative to a 3% policy target at the end of December. There was 1 new commitment in the amount of $11 million, and you can see the individual program fund returns and IRRs relative to peers as well. Looking at venture capital, this is the newest program in your portfolio and quite a low allocation relative to its target at 1.1% of the overall system relative to a 4% policy target. No new commitments during the quarter in question, and you can see the performance sorted by vintage year here, most of which we would consider not yet meaningful. We have a lot of, about half this book in terms of exhibits on the environment for private markets right now that I'm happy to take any questions on and that we will continue to keep you updated on. But as you can tell from this report, your staff members working with advisors continue to commit on a sort of regular basis according to the pacing plans that have been approved.
Are there any trustee questions? Any public comment or questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We can move to item 4D.
Thank you. So taking a look at the overall retirement system, we have the report as of the end of March 2025. It seems like a really long time ago in the markets. Doesn't include April or Liberation Day. But maybe I'll just do a quick review of index returns here just to set the stage for the performance. You can see the first quarter of 2025 in terms of major asset classes on the left here. Commodities were the strongest asset class, up almost 9%. And we, during the first quarter of 2025, started to see some dominance of non-U.S. stocks relative to the United States. As you recall, the United States, the Magnificent Seven, large cap tech had been dominant for quite some time, and then that shifted thus far in 2025. You can see that U.S. Markets were the only major negative markets for the first quarter of 2025. So you can see the Russell 3000, the S&P 500 down over 4%, while most other asset classes were positive. And if we take a look at the most recent quarter to date period, given sort of the headlines that we see around volatility, one might expect that markets had been challenged recently, but that actually hasn't been the case, including April, May, and June month to date, so almost the full second quarter. We see commodities down 3%, REITs, a real estate investment trust, down about 2%. Every other major asset class quite positive for the quarter to date period for the second quarter of 2025. U.S. markets are up 8.9% in just the last less than 3 months alone. Non-U.S. stocks are doing even better. The MSCI EFA index, which is developed international stocks, up 9.5% in the less than 3 month period. Emerging markets up 11.7%. So quite staggering non-U.S. returns and quite high absolute returns in the United States. Bonds are slightly positive, up 0.8% for the quarter to date period. Tips are about flat. High yield bonds on the riskier side of the bond spectrum, up 3% for the quarter to date. So despite a lot of headlines and volatility, markets have recently held up well. Taking a look at your positioning in terms of asset allocation, we do have the watch list in here as usual, but no major recommendations to highlight there. You can see on page 30 the total fund at $3.2 billion. And this is where we take a look at the current allocation to each individual asset class relative to its policy target. And you can see that the allocations are very close to their policy targets. The value of the plan is up since the end of December 2024. There were $23.1 million in investment gains during the first quarter of 2025, which more than balanced out the $2.8 million in outflows that we saw for benefit payments. Taking a look at total fund performance here, you can see a positive 3-month return of 0.7% for the first quarter of 2025 in the top third of the peer group and outperforming the benchmarks. You know, what is a full market cycle is sometimes up for debate, but oftentimes we look at about the 5-year period here in terms of a bit of a market cycle. And so I just highlight that in terms of the longer term performance, that the 5-year return, the plan has been up on average 10.7% per year over the last 5 years, outperforming benchmarks and ranking in the top quartile of the peer group. You know, one thing that we haven't seen in some time in terms of major asset classes is that U.S. equity is the only one that's negative here. So you can see U.S. equity down 4.7% for the quarter, and pretty much every other asset class positive for that time period. We do show individual manager returns in this report, but I won't go through all of them in the interest of time. I did just want to take a look at the risk situation for the fund over a 5-year period here. You can see the returns outperforming the peer group on the left, the standard deviation or volatility below that of the peer group in the second bar chart, bringing the Sharpe ratio or risk-adjusted return to within the top quartile of the peer group. So we have a lot of other information in here, but that is the high-level highlights that I wanted to point out.
Thank you. Any questions from trustees?
Just a quick question. Can you point me to how our emerging markets performance was last quarter?
Sure. So emerging markets performance is heavily dominated by whatever is happening in China. So if we take a look here, as you know, you have an emerging markets allocation around 10% of your total portfolio. So overweight to emerging markets relative to some peers, which has been a good thing on an asset allocation basis recently, with emerging markets outperforming the U.S. by about 2% recently. If we take a look at the longer term emerging markets performance, you can see for the 5-year period, significant outperformance for your emerging markets equity program relative to both the benchmark and the peer group. But the fact that you all have a bit more of an overweight to India rather than China was a little bit more of a drag recently when there was a lot of excitement around Chinese AI, perhaps being dominant over the U.S. and whatnot. And so that India overweight has been a bit detrimental recently.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comment? There is none. Okay, we can complete the four-factor by going to 4E and review the healthcare trust.
Thank you. Here we have the healthcare trust. I'll start on page 28 with the overall asset allocation and total market value at $432 million. As of the end of March, that represented $6.4 million in gains during the first quarter from your investments. And you can see the current allocations very close to policy targets. As you know, this fund tends to outperform in strong market environments relative to peers who often have a higher fixed income weight. That was the case in the first quarter of 2025 with a total fund return of 1.5%, significantly outperforming the policy benchmark and the peer group and ranking in the top quartile. That is also true with a strong peer group ranking and outperformance for the longer term time periods. This fund has had an average annual 5-year return of 8.9%. And the same story holds true if you look down at the asset class returns in terms of U.S. equity being negative and other asset classes providing a nice source of diversification for you. So I'm not going to go into individual managers again here, but happy to answer any questions.
And are there any questions from trustees? or from the public? Seeing none? Okay, thank you for this update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are ready to move on to item 6A. We'll hear from our CEO, Mr. Flynn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you say Mr. Polani?
Did I not say Mr. Flynn?
I thought, I don't know, it wasn't.
Okay, I apologize.
I recently attended the NCPERS Chief Officer Summit. It brought together CEOs and CIOs from public pension funds from across the country. It was a great session focused on real operational challenges with staffing and stakeholder trust and communication, member-focused communications, and improving internal coordination. This was another session with the peers from across the country. CalPERS offers a similar session in the fall, but it's focused on the California funds. This was great to hear some of the nationwide perspective on some of the changes that are going on, and really the problems or the friction that we all have in this role. ORS staff have come in, schedules have been adjusted to come in compliance with the city manager's guidance on a minimum of 32 hours per week in office. I want to thank the staff for their partnership as we worked, as we and senior staff worked through adjusting everybody's schedule. We have 3 upcoming vacancies. We have a benefit analyst in the pension group. This position became vacant on June 13th. We have a staff specialist in the health group that is retiring, and we're also preparing with the approval of the city council budget. We are working through the exception. We're working through the exception process on all of these positions, but we're hoping to start the recruitment for the program manager position that was approved as part of the budget, such that we can start, that position becomes available to us on July 1st. But just a reminder, the city still has a hiring freeze in place, so we do have to go through an exception process for all of these positions. We are working through 10 contracts in the past few weeks, with all the procurements that we started late last year, and all the selections that were done late winter, early spring. We're still landing the plane on a majority of the contracts. We have a few that are all done and buttoned up, and we're putting the final touches on the last ones that need to be in place by Monday. Saltzman & Johnson is complete. Hanson Bridget is complete. Ice Miller, we're waiting for insurance certificates. Reed Smith is in process with the city's risk department. As we're sitting here today, we got the final sign off on the Chiron contracts. Aon, we're going back and forth on some of the insurance requirements, and a whole host of other items that are smaller in nature. But it has been quite a coordination effort to drive this to completion with the consultants, honestly, and then also working with the city's risk department, because some of our consultants that have worked with us in the past are not used to the higher insurance standards that were put forth in this current RFP process, as the city has bolstered some of the insurance requirements. So we're working with them, and they've been very cooperative, but it's just been tedious to land the plane for selections that seemed like they were made long ago. The building is working hard to deliver our extended office space for July 1st. We are pushing through the city's procurement process to order the needed furniture and schedule for installation. Currently expecting that the space will be available by the end of August. Reminder, quarterly retirement workshops are held via Zoom, and members can register on the website. The workshops are for Tier 1 and Tier 2 members, typically who are within 1 to 2 years of retirement. The workshop is approximately 2 hours, held via Zoom. The next session is August 14th from 1 to 3 p.m. encourage all those who are interested to attend. Barbara Heyman, Jay Kwan were invited and spoke at the SJREA meeting on June 12th. I'm told there was positive reviews, but it's good to get out and hear the membership. I haven't been in front of them for a year, but I'm hoping to get out there when staff goes and speaks on open enrollment. Or summer picnics planned for tomorrow. It's being held at Kelly Park. Office will be closed in the afternoon. And we are also closed in observance of July 4th. I believe that's next Friday. With that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Any questions from trustees?
Were we invited to the picnic, the trustees?
I think it was a staff picnic, but I doubt anybody would turn you away.
I have to weigh the drive versus the free food quote.
Any public comment or questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Flynn. Oral update from our city council liaison, Vice Mayor Foley.
Thank you. Very interesting meeting. I'm really impressed at all the analysis of the investment update and how you are wordsmithing it. Clearly, you're reading it all, every word, which is really important. That's kind of it's interesting to see so much in-depth detail about it. So thank you for your attention to that plan and the serving as trustees in a thoughtful manner. Just a couple of things. We did adopt the budget. June is our budget adoption season. It's always very stressful, but we got it done a couple of weeks ago. And there were, which included the ORS budget and change to the staffing requests. It also included a reallocation of the Measure E transfer tax funds that we collect on property sold over, was 2 million, just went up to 2.3 million in property values. And that fund, we reallocated it to cover the costs, the increased cost of addressing our unhoused expenses. We have a lot of strategies that we're putting into place to move the unhoused indoors. Included is our emergency interim housing, which needs to be constructed but also needs to be managed and have wraparound services. And we should have, by the end of this year, an additional 1,300 emergency interim housing units available for occupancy. In addition, we have 5 motels that we're leasing that will be converted for use. One happens to be in my district, and we're hoping to have families, mothers and their children, or older women 60 and above live in the Bristol Hotel, which is the one in my district. But there's 5 motels. That's actually the quickest way to and cheapest way to create interim housing, because these are hotels that are already up and ready to run. We provide food, we provide security, we provide wraparound services, and the cost is only about $30,000 per door versus well over $100,000 to build an emergency interim housing, and they're ready very quickly. We hope to have those online within the next month or so, and that will include about 331 beds. A couple of things on the budget that were, I would consider of a controversial nature. One passed, one did not. The first is pay for performance. That was a strategy by the mayor, which I supported, to require the city council to set aside 5% of their salary in consideration of achieving certain benchmark goals that the council would be setting. The council did not pass that. It was defeated on a 5-7 vote, which was frustrating, but I certainly understand where my colleagues were coming from who were opposed to the pay for performance. But I don't think that we should ever be concerned about getting compensated for meeting goals. We expect that of our staff, so we should expect that of us as well. Having said that, the pay for performance, in all honesty, would not have affected me because I term out the end of next year, and by the time it's implemented and put in place, it wouldn't have affected me, but it would affect my successor. I still support it, would have supported it if I was a council member, where it benefited me one way or the other. The other item of some controversy, it was the code of conduct related to the unhoused. We had a code of conduct in place, but it was not as specific as it needed to be to guide police officers, frankly, and others on the conduct of some of the people who live in our unhoused encampments, specifically related to acquiring use of utilities in neighboring properties. I have one mobile home park where a neighboring encampment has stole a water hose, attached it to their the spigot on the housed residence side, and put it over the fence in off hours so that no one knew it was happening, and using water. Same thing happens with electricity for our commercial properties. It's being acquired illegally, and not to mention cutting down trees. So we implemented a code of conduct that is confused with the terminology of right to responsibility to shelter. We are not arresting anyone who refuses shelter. We're creating strategies for them to accept shelter and creating navigation centers and areas for them to move into. We also adopted regulations regarding oversized vehicles. You've probably seen a lot of oversized vehicles throughout the city, mostly in commercial areas, but they are around, and they're creating an environmental hazard in many ways. And so we have created a strategy for that by opening up safe parking and administering a strict 72-hour parking requirement. Those are all related to the budget, but the budget was based on 4 focus areas that have been the mayor's focus area for a couple of years, and were again his focus area. One was increasing community safety, reducing unsheltered homelessness, cleaning up our neighborhoods, and then attracting investments in jobs and housing. In July, we take a recess, and so there are no council meetings, and frankly, I was gonna take my recess today, but I know it's important. My job is to be here as the liaison, so I'm here. That means the city council offices are open, but many of our staffs take vacation during that time, so it's a slower response time from the council offices, but city staff is still in business and business as usual. The city did require, and I know that you've implemented this, John, that all staff return to work in the office 4 days a week, or a minimum of 32 hours. So they can split those 32 hours over 5 days if they want, whatever works with their schedule. And so I think that's the end of my report.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from trustees? Any public comment? Seeing none, did I understand correctly that the Measure E tax threshold is indexed for inflation?
Yes.
Okay,
So
did not know
it's
that.
I was proud to get that passed, by the way, because 2 million,
We'd all be there eventually.
it sounds horrible that that's an affordable price range. It's not affordable, but a lot of our homes are 2 million, and they're nothing special about them. I'll just say that. So yeah, every 5 years it gets assessed based on
5 years.
inflation.
Got it. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Can move forward to item 6C, discussion action on adoption of a updated city policy manual with respect to website and digital services.
Sure, we have 2 city policies coming to you for approval today. The first one is 6C. It's a website governance update. Additional just to give you a high-level overview of the change, additional clarifications for ADA Title II compliance, clarification on upcoming .gov state of California law and compliance, and web domain exception processes. It's pretty standard. The piece in here that has me, I have a question, or I will have a question out to Reed Smith, is whether or not this new law of the .gov will impact ORS. There's some wording in there that makes me think we would not be impacted, but I will need to do some research. If it does impact us, it will require us to update our website, because currently we're at .org, I think, and or .com. Yeah, and that would mean that we would have to convert to a .gov, which is not that big of a deal from a technology standpoint, but the ripple impacts from a communication standpoint are large. We'd have to update most of our documents, most of our letterheads, most of our, everything. So we'll start to do some research of that during the coming board meeting break, because we also have no board meetings in July, as you can see by the smile on my face.
Okay. So this is a city mandate, so
These are city policies that we're bringing to the board and recommending adoption.
So, but I don't sense that we really have the option to reject the policy, even though it's going to be costly to modify all of
so that's a California state law? So
I see.
This policy is being updated based on the California state law. There's a phrase in there that says for public use. I'm not sure our website is for public use as much as it is for our membership. So, I'll split those hairs with our general counsel and then come back to the board once we understand the full impact.
Understood.
But you do need a motion to approve.
We do need a motion to approve the policy.
So I'll make,
So it looks like
quick
Mr.
question.
Trustee Nakagama has a question.
Thank you. Per the policy, would you be, I guess, I don't want to say forced, but, forced to maintain the unified website? Would you be bound by that as well? Like you have to overhaul sjretirement.com to meet the new look and feel of the city's website?
So we maintain our own website, but we also participate in the city's overall website. So we do have to maintain some information in two places, which is a little cumbersome. But you can understand that many city employees will go to the city website first, and then we direct them to come to our website for up-to-date information versus the standard information.
Okay, so you wouldn't have to abide by the look and feel of the city's website on?
It's our decision on how that website should look.
Okay.
I mean, to come in compliant, we have a current provider that we use. I don't know when it was last redesigned, but not that long ago, to its current look and feel.
Couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it does not match the city
No.
look and feel.
Well, the city just rolled out a whole new website and department pages, but I think both internal and external. So the city has just done a rollout. I mean, within a few weeks, right?
Oh,
So
okay, haven't looked. Right. Any other questions? It looked like Vice Chair Chandra was about to formulate a proposal.
I make a motion to approve the recommended website policy.
Okay, is there?
Kind of petered out at the end.
Yeah, it started strong and.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a second? I believe there was a second from Trustee Linder. Any further discussion, comment from trustees or the public? Seeing none, we will vote. Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Nakagama?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra?
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Policy is approved. And now 6D, discussion adoption city policy manual for data governance.
So 6D is a new policy for the city, not in small part to the cybersecurity work and data governance work that was done by the central ITD and the city's data department with us as part of our assessment. Some of those assessments where there were findings weren't necessarily just ORS findings, but they're also city findings. And so I think one of the things this policy is addressing is some of the concerns that were raised for ORS are now being addressed citywide by this data governance policy. And so it's just, if I read my summary here, it's policies, processes, and standards designed to enhance data management, ensure uniform data structures, and facilitate seamless access for enterprise solutions. And I think most appropriately is that it's actually creating a data governance policy that didn't exist before.
Okay. Any questions from trustees? Any public comment? There is none. Would anyone like to formulate a proposal?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adopt the new data governance policy.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice Chair Chandra. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that, the tie goes to Linder. Second from Trustee Linder. And if there's no further comments, we will have a vote. Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Nakagawa?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra?
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We have a new policy. Then we move on to committee reports. 7-1 Investment Committee has not met since April 22nd, so probably the chair has nothing to report.
No report.
Very good. Audit Committee, 7.2, last met in May. Is there an oral update from our committee chair?
Yes, there are a couple of items here for our action. Joint Audit Committee met last time, on May 15, 25. Our next meeting is on August 21st. So I think there are a couple of items. Maybe there are some repetitions. I'll go one by one. The first item is a discussion and action on the audit plan by MGO. We met MGO to discuss the objectives, the scope of work for the audit for fiscal year 24-25. I believe the timeline is to finish the audit by October. The audit has already started. And I believe it's the same as the last fiscal year, so there's no change in that respect. Other than that, we have discussion on the status of outstanding city auditor recommendations. The city auditor report on the pending recommendations went to the council as of December 31st, 2024. As of that date, there were 2 recommendations which were pending. The rest of the recommendations, as far as ORS is concerned, were completely implemented. I believe as of this day, all the recommendations are implemented. Is that right, John? Or is there anything which is pending?
There's still, one of the 2 has been implemented.
Okay.
The last one is some training, some internal training on ORS specific procedures.
All right.
And just one other note on the city council presentation, one of our audit findings was listed as one of the top 12 priorities for the city from an audit perspective. That item has been closed out as of the 12/31 effective report. So I think that's really positive.
Okay.
Then we have an action item to review and approve the scope of services for the RFP for outsourced internal auditor. So we discussed this at length in the joint ad hoc committee since it's been a long time that position is vacant. Now we are moving forward with an RFP for outsourcing the services, and we discussed the scope of work at length in the committee and in the committee meeting, and here we are. There's an action item for reviewing and approving that RFP so that it goes out. And then I believe the last item here is the discussion on the internal audit findings. As far as there's a dashboard which is added as an attachment, if you can refer to it. There are 80 internal audit recommendations over 7 audits which which are kind of like in a pending status. So we asked John to go back and prioritize those recommendations and consider efficiency and operations as well as the risk factors in that prioritization, and come back to the committee on which of the recommendations can be proposed as complete. And the proposal is to mark 25 recommendations as complete at this point. 30 of the recommendations are already completed when discussed with the staff. With that, there will be 25 recommendations which will be in the status of not started or in process. So here, I believe there is an action item to accept those 25 internal audit recommendations marked as complete, since we these are the these go back as far as 2019 or 2021. So the staff has kind of like weighed the benefits and cost of working on these 25 internal audit recommendations, and recommended to close these.
Okay. All right, thank you. If there are any questions or comments from trustees, we can move forward to item B, which is simply to receive and file the minutes. And
I
then-
believe we need a motion for MGO plan, John?
Oh, we do not have MGO agendized for discussion and action.
Okay.
I actually have a question out right now to, if we do need to bring it, it'll have to wait till August.
Okay.
Okay, so we will receive and file the minutes, and then proceed to item C, which is, as you were just discussing, to accept the 25 internal audit recommendations as complete.
So, may I comment on that?
Please.
An oversight on my part for 7.2B, there should be a second attachment here. The memo refers to attachment A, which would have listed out the 25 items that we were looking to propose complete. So I'm okay with having a discussion if you want to talk about the process, but I would recommend that we defer action to the next meeting so that I can get that on the agenda. I apologize. That is not staff's fault. That is my fault.
Are you referring to the dashboard?
No, what I would like is to present each of the 25 items so that if any of the trustee, you've seen it,
Yes.
because we went through it during the audit committee,
Right.
but the rest of the trustees haven't. So if you're okay, I would prefer to defer action so that the trustees can see the 25 recommendations that we are proposing to close. It was an oversight on my part.
Well, in an abundance of caution with compliance with the Bryan Act, if that is in the power of the chair, we will defer that action.
Okay, but the process, as trustee Avasti had mentioned, many of these recommendations had already been completed by the staff, and they had already done the work, and some of it was just bookkeeping and documentation and confirmation that that work was done, and it met the recommendation or the spirit of the recommendation. And instead of carrying these large number of items until we get our internal audit function up and running again, we'd like to close those out so that we can focus on the remaining
25.
Yeah, 25 remaining items that are on the list. But the good news is that all the criticals have been are completed or proposed complete, and a very few number of high items remain in progress. So, but I do recommend we.
Okay. Do we require action by the full board to defer, or that's in the purview of the chair? So if there is no objection, we will defer that item, which brings us to item D, discussion action on the establishing a joint audit ad hoc committee. 2 board members from each board. I guess one will be primary and the second a backup, as it were.
Correct. So at the audit committee, working with, as the joint audit committee, the recommendation was to establish a joint audit ad hoc committee. This will allow us to work through the procurement process more quickly. The ad hoc committee would be involved with the scoring of the proposals that are, all the proposals that are brought, and along with staff. And this joint ad hoc committee and staff will make recommendation to bring finalists back to the full audit committee, so the full audit committee can interview and then make final selection and recommendation to the boards.
Great. Has this been approved already by police and fire?
It has.
It has been, okay. Any questions or discussions about the formulation of this committee, ad hoc committee?
So one question, John, I was looking at the timeline, and it seems like the contract it's essentially taking like 6 months, right, for the entire process. So I'm wondering if there is a way to kind of like expedite this, since the internal audit function is kind of vacant for so long.
We can shorten it so that the timeline mirrors the procurement timelines that we did for our legal services, our actuarial services, and all the other procurements that we did earlier this year. Some of them is to give time for responses, adequate time for responses. We could go to a minimally required timeline procurement process to streamline that. The risk becomes we get less responsiveness because they don't have time, the vendors don't have time to respond. So, and I mean, it is one of the reasons why we recommend the joint ad hoc committee, is so that we can move more, we can be more nimble in the scheduling and movement. But, you know, if, what I would recommend is that, you know, or the recommendation here will be to, for 7.2E, is to authorize the committee to have, to determine the appropriate procurement process. And so I can bring back to that joint ad hoc committee an alternate schedule that would be more aggressive.
Okay, that works. And I believe in the ad hoc committee, in the last audit committee, Trustee Abbott volunteered to be one of the board members.
Yeah, so Trustee Abbott, not just because she's remote today, we will volunteer to be the primary, and I believe you're the secondary?
Yes.
Or recommended as
Yes,
the secondary?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
fine, since I'm close to the audit committee.
Great,
so.
we have volunteers already. So let's go ahead and establish that ad hoc committee so our volunteers can take their positions. Do we have a motion? Any further questions or discussion? Do we have a motion to establish the joint audit ad hoc committee as described?
We so move.
That's a motion from Trustee Abbott. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Trustee Linder. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we will vote. Trustee Abbott?
Aye.
Trustee Nakagawa?
Aye.
Trustee Avasti?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra?
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner?
Aye.
Trustee Linder?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The committee is established. And now on to subject E, which is to delegate authority to two board members to be members of that ad hoc committee. And it sounds like we had volunteers already, if I understood correctly, which is great. So that would be Trustee Abbott as a primary and Trustee Avasti as the, what word are we using to describe?
Alternate.
Alternate, thank you. Is there any further nominations for that ad hoc committee? Any volunteers? Any volunteers? No? I'm seeing none. Any further discussion? Would someone like to formulate a motion?
So I think technically that would have to be an amendment to the 7.2D motion.
So
to-
D was to appoint, to nominate, right? So that's,
It's to establish and to nominate. So, so as part of the establishment, you need to
I see.
assign the trustees. So if we want to make an amendment to D, to also include.
Okay, I was confused.
Yeah, my mistake.
So shall we simply have a revote on that to establish and nominate our two volunteers?
Sure.
Do we have such a motion?
I'll make a motion to establish and to nominate Trustee Abbott and Trustee Avasti as the alternate.
Very good,
to
thank
that
you.
committee.
Thank you, Vice Chair
Second.
Chandra, and we have a second from Trustee Linder. And if there's any further discussion, we can vote. Trustee Abbott? I'm not sure I heard that.
Aye.
That's an aye, thank you. She may be losing her voice. Trustee Nakagawa,
Aye.
Trustee Avasti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra,
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner,
Aye.
Trustee Linder,
Aye.
and Chair votes aye. And now we vote E, which is to delegate the authority to those two members of the ad hoc committee.
Correct.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? If not, I will entertain a motion to delegate.
I move that we
Yeah.
delegate as outlined.
Thank you. From Trustee Linder, a second. Trustee Faulkner is raising his hand on that one. Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, we'll have Trustee Abbott.
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Nakagawa,
Aye.
Trustee Vasti,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chandra,
Aye.
Trustee Faulkner,
Aye.
Trustee Linder,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. On to item 7.3, Governance Committee, last met in March 14th. Chair Abbott, is there anything to report out of the governance?
Nope, there's nothing new to report, but we'll be meeting as it shows here on August 7th.
August 7th, after a nice recess in July. Great. 7.4, Disability Committee. Looks like last met in June 3rd. Any update from the chair?
No update. We are set for August 5th, and we'll see what we have.
Okay, and we'll receive and file the minutes. Joint Personnel has not met since April 2nd, so I assume there is no update
No
from the
update.
chair. Legal Services Joint Ad Hoc Committee.
That shouldn't that be disbanded?
As soon as those the ad hoc committees are authorized until the contracts are signed, so we still have
Oh,
a few items.
okay.
To,
Did not know
So
that.
we're not-
yes, so you're still on the hook. You can't get away.
Okay, but
As
I,
long as I'm not signing.
all right, but I assume there's no oral update there?
No.
And I suspect something similar with Actuarial Services Joint Ad Hoc Committee?
Correct.
And that is also waiting execution on the contract?
Waiting on execution.
Okay.
We have not, working in priority order, we're trying to get all the primary services in place. The second part of the actuarial RFP was for audit, which we will not be performing in this fiscal year. So we will be negotiating that contract next. So that committee will stay in place until we can finish that final Milliman contract.
Okay. Great. That brings us to agenda item 8, education and training, various opportunities. I believe some trustees are taking advantage of them. And are there any proposed agenda items? Seeing none, we are adjourned at 12 noon.
Good work, Spencer.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Thank you.